What is up, everyone? Today we are going to chat about this new absolutely broken build for Warlocks. I know people have been kind of weary on Strand because it's a new subclass and we don't know really how it works yet, but I think this build is good for pretty much anything in the game, so we'll go through it. The exotics I am rocking today are the Quicksilver Storm in Catalyst form. The Catalyst gives it the Strand element, and it also makes it so that Threadlings now spawn Tangles on kills, which in my opinion is kind of busted, but you'll see how it works. I'm also rocking the Swarmer's exotic legs for the Warlock, and this makes it so destroying a tangle spawns a threadling, and then the threadlings unravel targets, which creates a tangle, which then again spawns a threadling, and it just keeps everything going in this cycle. And the way this build works is it is meant to create as many threadlings as possible. So that's why we have the Swarmers on, that's why we have Quicksilver Storm. They are there to create tangles and then to create threadlings. So the loop of this build is cast your rift, make some threadlings, those threadlings unravel targets, and then once those targets die, they create another tangle, and then you can throw that to create some threadlings as well and unravel targets, and it just cycles through these threadlings and tangles, and it just does a whole bunch of AoE damage. So for the subclass itself, I'm rocking a Healing Rift. I think you can go with either, but I like Healing Rift for survivability. The glide doesn't matter, of course. Of course, the melee is Arcane Needle, which unravels targets itself and is really the big part of this build. I'm rocking the Threadling Grenade just for instant threadlings. I'm also using Weaver's Call, which of course creates threadlings on your Rift deployment. I'm also running Mindspun Invocation, which has a bunch of effects, but what we're really worried about is the last one, which is Hold to consume your Threadling Grenade, which immediately generates 5 perched threadlings. For my fragments, I'm rocking the Thread of Evolution, where threadlings travel further and deal additional damage. It also gives you a little bit of an intellect bump. I'm also running Thread of Generation, so when you deal damage with grenades, it also generates grenade energy. Now, when you're using the Threadling Grenade, this makes it so when you actually hit targets with the 3 threadlings from the grenade, it gives you back a bunch of grenade energy. I also use Thread of Fury, where if you damage targets with tangles, it generates melee energy, and with this build you're creating a lot of tangles, so you're constantly generating melee energy. Then last but not least, I'm running Thread of Propagation, which when you kill a target with a powered melee final blow, you get unraveling rounds for your strand weapons. So for my mods, I'm running just the standard discipline and resilience mods just to get some damage resistance and to get my grenade back as fast as possible. Otherwise, I'm running Heavy Finder just for DPS stuff. There's probably a better mod to go here, but I like Heavy Finder just for all of my ammo needs. I'm running Harmonic Siphon to give me armor charge. When you pick up an Orb of Power, you get armor charge, which synergizes with the rest of the build as well. I'm running Hands On, where you get super energy on melee kills. This is why we have a bunch of stuff to restore melee energy. I'm running 2 melee kickstarts, which again is just to get your melee back as fast as possible because your melee is what's giving you those unraveling rounds. I'm running Momentum Transfer, which is when you cause damage with a grenade, it reduces your melee cooldown. So once again, we're just speccing into getting that melee as fast as possible. My chests are just my resist mods, just your standard Arc Void Solar. On the legs, I've got 2 copies of Invigoration, which when you pick up an Orb of Power, you're even further reducing that melee cooldown. And then I have 1 copy of Innervation, which is reducing your grenade cooldown when you pick up an Orb of Power. On my class item, I've got 2 copies of Outreach, which when you use your class ability, it reduces your melee cooldown, which once again, we're just stacking stuff so we can keep our melee rocking. And then last but not least, we've got Bomber, which is just reducing your grenade cooldown when using your class ability. So this build is really grenade and melee focused. We want our melee up as much as possible so we can keep creating those unraveling rounds. And since you have 3 charges of your melee, you want most of those up at all times for the damage. And then for the season pass, we're running Allied Unraveling, which basically just gives your weapon unraveling rounds when you get rapid kills, rapid final blows. So the main things about this build, the main things you need are Quicksilver Storm or a Strand weapon that has some kind of Strand perk, and then you also need Swarmers. Those are kind of the main two things. You can, iterate on it however you want. And that's the build, so we'll jump into some gameplay so you can get a sense of how it works. But I think this build is very powerful. I like the way that it's so built around crowd control, and you'll see that you're affecting a lot of targets with Strand at one time. And since everything is more difficult now, you'll be getting a lot out of that crowd control, more so than you would if, you were just running the strike playlist. So once again, we'll jump into some gameplay, see how it works. And yeah, I'll catch you in the next video.
In that pyramid with the prisoners, the air was different somehow. Heavier, harder to breathe.
The power of the witness suffuses every molecule of the pyramid. The very air is saturated by its multivalent consciousness.
Ugh. I've seen a lot of disgusting things doing this job, but inhaling witness dust might take the cake.